And your Vikings now are in a bit of a hole. 2 games under 500. And the season's at a crossroads here. This is where you sink or swim. Next week, you lose at Green Bay, it's done. Pierre, you're looking like it's already done. You were saying last week it was a playoff team.
No, I said it was not a playoff team.
What? Yeah, I knew somebody was still
what?
Someone who was still on the main ship and the other was in the lifeboat. I didn't know which one. So you're still in the boat. Go ahead then. How is this still a playoff team?
Their defense keeps them in
great.
games. Their defense gives them a chance to win. They just have to have an offense that's content for more than 10 minutes in a game. I mean, outside of their opening drive and then their last drive in the fourth quarter, like, they have to be better. They have to be able to piece things together. 7 games remain. Pierre and I said it on the Vikings post-game show. They have to win about 6 out of 7 games to give themselves a chance to go to the playoffs. So I still think there's a chance. If you look at their slate of games, all of them are winnable, but it just depends on what JJ McCarthy shows up.
Pierre?
Yeah, they're winnable. I would agree. I mean, they're winnable, but I don't.
Going to Seattle, winnable? Going to Lambeau, they've not done well there.
Listen, Green Bay hasn't been formidable at home this year. I mean, neither has Minnesota, but at the same time, too, they are winnable. I agree with Ahmad that they are winnable. Do I believe they're going to win them? No, I do not. No, last week it was on this very show that I said after the loss of the Ravens, the first thought in my head was the season was over. And then I walked it back thinking to myself, because you have 4 divisional games remaining, and if you win all 4 of those games, or at worst go 3-1, you still give yourself a fighting chance. But after the performance I saw today from the offense, I have no faith in this offense whatsoever. How can you have any faith in this offense?
Is it the whole offense that you have no faith in? You have no faith in Justin Jefferson, Aaron Jones?
No. I have no faith in the passing game. I have no faith in the passing game as it stands right now.
On one end of it, not the other end.
Correct.
We can call it. We can say Justin Jefferson is all right.
Well,
but
listen.
We could say JJ McCarthy is a problem at this point in his development.
Yes, and that's exactly it.
So we can say that. You don't have to say the offense.
No. And
you don't throw the whole.
I say when you're it is his second year, but JJ McCarthy is essentially a rookie. I think the fair amount of time to give a rookie to acclimate to the NFL and catch up to the speed of the game is about half the season. I'd say 8 to 9 games, I think, is a fair barometer to be able to fairly evaluate a rookie playing in the NFL. Obviously, it's going to be harder to be a rookie quarterback in the NFL, but I think 8 to 9 games is about fair. He's at 5. It hasn't looked great. So, no, I'm not jumping ship on his development and what he could potentially be. Just right now, it's not good enough. It's not good. And not only is it not good enough, there were points in today's game where I thought to myself, your play is hurting the team.
Right.
That's a problem.
Right.
That's a problem.
And that's the problem for his teammates. It's fine.
It's a problem for the entire team.
No, but the teammates are going to start saying, all right, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
What are we doing here, guys?
If they haven't already. But look, here's my thing, though. And
you think they have?
No. I just think that, here's my point. You look at that draft class, everybody that was drafted in that draft class, Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix, JJ McCarthy, Michael Penix. None of those guys have came out and played great in their first 5 games and sustained that level of play throughout their first season and into their second season. All right? All of them have growing pains, including JJ McCarthy. And outside of Michael Penix, all of those guys played a majority of last season. So when you're talking about, well, the verdict's out, he's not a good quarterback, etc. No, I know you're not saying that, but I'm talking about the fan base. That's loud and wrong sometimes. Kevin O'Connell said it best after this game. Did J.J. McCarthy play great? No. Did he make plays to keep us in the game and have a chance to win it at the end of the game? Absolutely. This would be a much different talking point if the Vikings kick return team could have just held the Bears down on their side of the field instead of going on the Vikings side of the field and getting that game-winning field goal.
Right, but you're picking out one kick return where I could show you 12 passes.
Absolutely.
But if this pass was completed,
but there were also
results.
6 drops. You could talk about the Jordan Addison drop at the beginning of the game where he climbed up in the pocket, delivered a dime, and if Addison catches that, he's very well going on for a touchdown. So, yes, J.J. McCarthy was inaccurate. Let's see. J.J. McCarthy, I think, had 15 or 16 incomplete passes. 6 of those were drops. The other 6 were off. So it's like, all right, yes, JJ McCarthy did have a problem in this game, but so did a lot of other people in this game. The offensive line played phenomenal, though, and I think that's why the Vikings had a chance to win at the end of the game. But to sit here and place the blame solely on JJ McCarthy would be malpractice, I believe, because it's a team
16
game.
to 32.
So 16 incompletions, six drop passes, so 10 incompletions. That's not a terrible game for a quarterback.
A quarterback rating of 47.7.
That's not good. Yeah, that's not good. But I still think that his guys didn't help him. Drop passes count towards that quarterback rating.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You know, the formula doesn't take into effect whether it was a drop or a bad pass.
That's correct.
That is 100% correct.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that all those teams you listed that were starting with new quarterbacks, all were teams that were rebuilding. This franchise wasn't in a rebuild.
No. Quote, it was a competitive rebuild. People just didn't expect them to be that good with Sam Darnold last year. So you never got a chance to rebuild.
So you were here at 14 wins, and you were expected to do something in the postseason. Didn't work out. But now to say, all right, we're just going to let this kid learn, and whatever happens, happens. I don't know if that's their thought process, what they have decided on. Whether that's O'Connell's decision, whether that's Kwesi's decision. But if you've decided that, then why did you go out and load up on aging veterans in free agency?
That's another story for another day.
This is where we're at. Because if we're going to try to save the season, they have to figure out a way to get McCarthy working. Mm-hmm. Or you got to look at something else. But you can't just if you're just saying, you know what, we're just going to let the kid learn. Whatever happens, happens. You know, that's a tough pill for a lot of those other players to say, all right, well, this is great. I'm spending the year watching a kid win learn while we just won 14 games a year ago. We've added these guys that were here to push this. It seemed like one message was it looked like there was a window for this team to go deep in the playoffs.
Agree.
Now, it doesn't look like there's a window at all if we're going to let this kid just cook, which eventually he could be great. He could be the greatest quarterback in Viking franchise history. I'm not saying that. I'm saying this is a decision that has to be made. What are we doing with this year right now?
I think you're stuck with what you got. I think your only option is to move forward with JJ McCarthy because your only alternative right now is to turn the team over to Max Brosmer, and you're not going to do that either. So your only choice is to move forward and hope that it just gets better week after week. And I agree with what Ahmad said earlier. There were drops today that were critical in this game that could have helped him out, that could have moved the chains for this offense and made it look a little bit better. But I also think there are tendencies that we've seen with JJ McCarthy over the last 3 weeks, including today's game, that continuously pop up in a consistent fashion. Air-mailing throws over Justin Jefferson's head, throwing behind receivers. That first interception when he was looking for Justin Jefferson, throwing that ball deep. Justin Jefferson, that was blanket coverage on Justin Jefferson, and that ball ended up in the hands of Kevin Byard coming the other way. I didn't think that was the right decision to make that throw. Ahmad just pointed out he wasn't sacked at all today. Now, being sacked versus being pressured obviously are two different things, so you want to look at some of those numbers as well. How much was he really pressured? But he had time to throw today. The throws were there to be made. He didn't make the throws. And yes, there were drops. It's not all on one guy, but you have to – I think you're stuck in a position right now to where you have no choice but to keep throwing him out there and hope it's just baptism by fire and he finds a way to improve on a weekly basis.
The alternative that I know you love to bring up is you pay Sam Darnold, but then you don't have money to go sign guys on the offensive line.
My guy was Daniel Jones because that was a economical price.
But you could say Daniel Jones, but he hasn't looked great against competitive, good football teams either. That conference that they're in is pretty garbage, and they beat up on teams and they're garbage, but he hasn't played well against good teams. So I think the story was you had to shore up that offensive line because last year the offensive line looked atrocious versus the Rams. What did they give up, like 8 or 9 sacks or something like that? And so it didn't matter who you had playing quarterback. So, yeah, it's like, all right, you got growing pains, but look, that's part of the growth and development. Like, I know everyone wants the instant success. Like, to put them on the field, you should be good right away.
No, I'm not saying that.
No, I'm not saying that's you, but it's a lot of people out there, and they're like, what are we doing with JJ? It's like, look, he had a bad game. He's had bad games, but you're not going to be perfect in your 5th start in the National Football League. Tom Brady wasn't. I mean, Troy Aikman wasn't.
I could find thousands of quarterbacks that have put up these same numbers in their first 5 games and were never any good.
Yeah, I mean, you
You can pick out the greatest of all time, and yes, they've done it. Like they say, Fran Tarkich's first game. Well, wasn't that good? Well, no, he came off the bench and threw 4 touchdown passes and beat the Bears.
His next game wasn't that good either.
I think most fans out there, I think, are probably smart enough to notice that there needs to be a growing curve with this young man. But also, I think there's a lot of them that would also turn and say, like, listen, we didn't expect him to leap off the page in the first 5 games. But if you could be, the first guy that comes to my mind is like if you could play like Chad Pennington in your first 5 games, a guy who rarely turned the ball over, a guy who was consistent enough, a guy who didn't wow you by any means, but he put his team in positions to win often, both in New York and in Miami. If I could get that out of you in the first handful of games and then have you springboard to another level as the season continues from that point, then I would be happy. The floor right now for JJ McCarthy, I think, is further down than what fans have expected. That's where I think the disconnect is coming from.
Yeah, it is different. There's Daniel Jones's numbers.
Yeah, I see it. 15 touchdowns and 7 interceptions.
Yes.
And they've also played nobody.
Doesn't matter. The schedule's the schedule. He's 8-2.
I get that.
He's 8-2. All I'm saying
but
is,
if he goes
all
up there
I'm
and
saying
loses
is,
in the first round of the playoffs, then people are going to be saying the same thing. He can't win against good teams and when it matters most. That was the argument with Sam Darnold last year. That was the argument with Kirk Cousins. It's the same storyline, though.
Right, and they always dump it on the quarterback, and then somebody that's defending the quarterback will say, well, it's a team game. There's other people out there. But all I'm saying is if you have a team that you felt had a window, you need to have quality backups at every position. So I don't know why the Vikings didn't look at it that way. They went with Sam Howell, who couldn't even get out of training camp. Brett Rippon, he's out on the street somewhere. Well, no, he's on a practice squad somewhere else. But you'd think that, okay, it's
Cincinnati,
fine.
if I'm not mistaken, I think.
So to go with a quarterback and just say this is it, and you don't have a competition for that position, you don't have a situation where if he gets hurt now, then what are the Vikings going to do? You think you would have learned, and I've circled around this argument several times.
We've talked about this in terms of why there wasn't quality competition in place from the beginning of training camp for JJ McCarthy. We've talked about that ad nauseum here on this podcast, and we still don't have a very definitive answer as to why. We all know that when you're a regime and you select your guy at number 10 overall, you obviously want to see him get on the field and make it work. You want to do everything you can to possibly make it work. It's that we know, like I just said a moment ago, you have no other choice but to play this young man and to continue to hope that Kevin O'Connell can find a way to make him better, because Kevin O'Connell also has a responsibility to make this young man better. I mean, going into the season, everybody talked about how Kevin O'Connell's the quarterback whisperer. And it has worked at times, and then we saw it for one game with Josh Dobbs when it was here, and then suddenly it fell off the wagon with Josh Dobbs. And I think it's also, we have to kind of ask ourselves, is Kevin doing everything he can to put this young man in a position to succeed? Is he putting him in the right spots? Is he calling the right plays? Because
for his abilities. For
his abilities. Because the one thing that always drove me nuts about coaches at the professional level is, you might have a way in which you like to do things, but does your game plan match the talent that you have? Or are you a coach that can say, okay, this guy, here's his limitations, here's his strength. I need to build a different game plan around his strengths and weaknesses and then go from there, not try to make a square peg fit in a round hole. I don't know if we're there right now with Kevin O'Connell, but these are some things that I've wondered over the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, and you mentioned I keep going back to this ad nauseum. Well, that's where the season's at. Mm-hmm. They're not changing the script for me. So these are the questions I keep coming back to. is like, why didn't you address this? But we're done with that. We'll let it lay.
But one more point on that. I just think if you go back and you watch the tape, and Pierre and I got a chance to break it down the 90-minute postgame show that we did. A ton of JJ.
It was fantastic, by the way.
Okay,
thanks,
Jim. A lot of the misses that JJ McCarthy had was on accuracy, and accuracy can be improved. That's one thing that can get better once things start to slow down. But if you look at the misses that he had, he was making the right read. The ball was going where it was supposed to be. He wasn't throwing in double and triple coverage. He just wasn't completing the passes, or the guys weren't dropping them. So that's a sign of positive encouragement. Like, you're learning from your mistakes. You're not just going out there and throwing in the double coverage or airmailing the ball, to a guy that wasn't open. These guys are open. So all you got to do is just slow down mentally, slow down physically just a little bit, complete these passes, and it's a completely different ball game. So when I look at the All-22, which I haven't gotten a chance to do yet this week, but I'm sure if I go back and watch the All-22, the offensive line gave him a ton of time.
Yeah.
So there was just certain throws where it's like, hey, JJ, just put the ball on him. You're making the right read. You're going to the right guy. Just be more accurate. And I think if he's more accurate, it's a different story. And accuracy can be improved throughout the course of your NFL career.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's great, right? But O'Connell keeps bringing up footwork.
He said that wasn't a big problem today.
Was he good with it today?
I mean, I wouldn't say he was perfect.
No. I'm saying O'Connell was fine with it because he obviously knows what he's looking for more than I know what he's looking for. But he does always seem to go back.
He didn't speak a lot about mechanics. Everybody loves to bring that up every weekend. That's Kevin O'Connell's fault. That was just his excuse that he kept going to about not playing JJ McCarthy. Oh, we want to make sure his mechanics and his fundamentals are there. And basically, he just needed to get healthy. He created this narrative and this storyline that everybody keeps going back to. I think his mechanics and everything are fine. He just needs to slow down and get reps. But you can't possibly slow down until, like Pierre said, until you have 8 or 9 games underneath your belt. We're still 5 games in with this young man. Like, things are going to go faster. Like, you're talking about going from college to sitting out a year and now playing in some of the most competitive, high-intensity games where your team needs a win. That is hard, no matter who plays. So I think fundamentals were there. The reads were there. He just needs to take another hitch, deliver the ball with, momentum, learn to lay off the fastball a little bit and layer the ball in there and put it in with some touch. But you don't develop that over your first, 5 games. You need a little bit more time.
And the crazy thing about his day is that the last series, he was fantastic. Right. You'd think if a guy's going off the rails or can't make the passes, that it wouldn't all of a sudden snap and come together for you. And then all of a sudden, he just ripped down the field that last drive, put it to Addison, boom, we're in the end zone.
And Kevin O'Connell gave him credit for that after the game, for being mentally tough and hanging in there, even though he didn't have the best of afternoons. But yeah, that shows some mental toughness from me. And that also, not from me, it shows me mental toughness from JJ. I'm mentally very fragile at this time of year. But we've seen JJ perform in clutch situations. We've seen it already happen a couple of times this year. At Chicago, at Detroit, we've seen it happen. And I think that goes to Ahmad's point. You see the flashes from time to time. It's just a matter of stringing together 4 consistent quarters week after week. We don't see any consistency out of him yet. And that's what we really need to start seeing more of. The inaccuracy is still a problem for me, but Ahmad is correct. That is something that can improve. The physical talent is there, but the inaccuracy is really what's leaving me sitting in the chair going like, nah. Like, you could talk about arm strength to the cows come home, but if you could throw the ball a country mile, but you can't put it in the hands of the wide receiver, what good does it do?
Right.
So accuracy is really where this young man needs to start, and that's why I bring up, and I know I'll probably get killed on this, I don't care, but that's why I bring up a name like Chad Pennington, because he was very accurate. Accuracy matters. Now, no, I know that he didn't go all the way, and all this stuff. That's not really the point I'm making. So that's where I think it has to start with JJ McCarthy. Even though there are some throws, especially in today's game too, there were some throws and some calls that I saw that were short, simple throws to get him going and then there were a few moments where he didn't even hit some of those simple throws.
Yeah. And Tom Brady said it best. I think it was on an out and up to TJ Hockenson where you delivered the ball on time. It's probably a touchdown, but he held on to it. Then his arm got hit and it didn't get there where it needed to be. And Tom Brady said that's the stuff you learn. All right, you know where your guy's going to be. You don't have to wait for him to come open like it. But a young quarterback wouldn't know that. Sometimes you just got to know, I got to rip it. He hasn't turned around yet, but if I put enough touch on this ball, it's going to fall right right to where it needs to be. And I think you don't get that without experience, without reps and going through it, because in practice, you only get so many reps going against competitive defenses, going 100 miles an hour. Whereas in the game, everything is magnified just a little bit more because, like you said, they built a roster to go out and win now. And everyone wants to see a much better team on paper, in the wins and loss column. But you can't rush progression and development. That's just one thing you can't rush. Like all of us, we all started out as sports broadcast journalists, and I'm sure if you go back and look at our first year's tape, we were all awful. Mm-hmm. But look at us now. It's like we're all to the point where we are. It's like you have to have time to develop and get to where you need to be. I
can see him typing comments right now. I don't know how far Jim is coming from the awful stage. All right, defense, the lack of turnovers. The Bears, that's why they're sitting where they are. They are plus 20 in giveaway takeaway this year. They have been sensational. Got 2 more today. Vikings defense held them in, and they were great all day. But turnovers, you can't create your own. Can you create your own? The team, your opponent's not giving you risky plays that you could jump on, or I don't know. We've asked them in the locker room, what's going on, and they go, the only thing they say is they have to be more aggressive. But I don't know.
I don't know how much more aggressive you can be when you blitz as often as you do with Brian Flores. But to me, turnovers are in a way like touchdowns. They're fluky. They can be fluky. One guy might have 1 week, and then he might go a few weeks without having one. It's not like something that you can predict obviously, you can force a fumble if you can get to the quarterback a little bit faster, and they got to the quarterback a few times today. They had 2 sacks on the day. They probably should have had more, but Caleb Williams, credit to him.
Unbelievable.
Slips pressure.
So good.
There were numerous times where Chicago should have been farther behind the sticks, and he was able to escape pressure. But the lack of forcing turnovers doesn't really bother me. I have to be honest. It doesn't really bother me. It's just the consistency at which you play the game. And they were great against the run today as well, even though you look at the box score, 140 total yards on the ground for Chicago. However, it was only 3.6 yards per rush. That's a good number.
Yep.
That's a good number. Yep. That's a number that'll win you games in this league.
And I also think that the turnovers you're talking about last year, while they had led the league in interceptions and things like that, they were playing ahead. They had a lot of leads last year.
That's true.
So teams had to throw the ball. So you got to unleash Jonathan Grenard. You got to unleash Andrew Van Ginkel. Whereas now you're playing from behind and teams are able to run the ball, control the clock, and do things like that. So you don't really have a ton of situations to go out there and create turnovers. It's not like you can just say, we're going to go get 2 turnovers this game. Let's go make it happen. Yeah. It doesn't work like that, especially if teams are able to control the clock and run the ball. I think that's been the biggest difference in this defense this year. Now, granted, they weren't good a little bit early on, especially losing Blake Cashman and Andrew Van Ginkel after that first game of the season. But I think now you're talking about games where they're playing.
And Cashman, too.
Yeah, I said that. Blake Cashman and Andrew Van Ginkel. Yeah. So I think they're playing from behind right now. So of course, you're not going to get a ton of opportunities to go out there and get interceptions. You're not going to get a ton of opportunities to get strip sacks and, get fumble recoveries and things like that. So turnovers don't really worry me. I know the Vikings defense say they have to get better and the ball is the number one thing, but you're keeping your offense in it. And one thing I said in the postgame show is if your offense is going 3 and out or 6 plays and out, and then your defense is going back on the field time and time again, well, guess they're getting worn down. And it's kind of hard to get those turnovers and things like that, especially if your offense is turning the ball over and your special teams. So I really don't think it's a problem with the defense because at the end of the day, they kept them in the game and they had a chance to win. And even on that drive where they got the 56-yard kick return, the defense only gave up, 8 yards? So it's like, they did what they had to do. The offense just has to play better.
I know that. It was just a curiosity because Flores has feasted on turnovers, and that's been his bread and butter. So I didn't know if something is different or they're playing it differently this year or what. It just seems like that would be a way to help this offense out. If they could flip the field a couple of times or at least once with a big turnover, a fumble, give them a short field and try to help McCarthy out that way. Because time of possession, even though they held the Bears out of the end zone, 36 minutes to 23 minutes.
And that's all in your offense. That's all in your offense and not being able to sustain drives and keep your defense on the bench so they can get rested.
Right. And then the third downs conversions again. What was it? 3 of 11. 14 last week, right?
3 of 11.
3 of 11
3 of 11 this. So terrible
6 of 25.
percentage.
Got to do better.
Thank you for that quick math.
There's a lot of drops in this game, a lot of errant throws. They just have to be better, plain and simple. Have to be better.
So does this team hold it together, or is there potential for the wheels to start coming off in that locker room?
No, I think there's too many veterans in that locker room. I think this coaching staff is well equipped to keep this team, focused and keep their drive going week in and week out. But the reality is time is running out. You are now, what is it, 3 games out of first place. The Lions, as we talk right now, the Lions have yet to play the Eagles.
Correct.
Chicago won today, obviously. Green Bay wins today. You are now 3 games out of first place. I think the NFC North crown is out of your reach completely at this point. Mm-hmm. But the wild card spot, even though, from looking, I'm going to look at it from an objective point of view and not my point of view. The objective point of view is there's still games to be played and there's still games that can be won and a chance for you to get back in this NFC wild card race. The problem is you have to turn around and look at the NFC West right now, where you have the Rams, Seattle, and a San Francisco team that is getting healthy at the right time. Do you think that you're going to be able to claw your way back in and not only contend with them, but leap potentially the Lions or leap the Bears or leap the Packers just to get yourself back into the conversation? That is hard for me to believe right now with this team, but they're certainly capable. I don't think that anybody is painting this as a doomsday scenario at 4-6 right now. No, I don't believe that.
You believe that?
No, I mean, I don't think it's over. I mean, yeah, but I agree with what Pierre's saying. There's still a lot of opportunities left. I mean, anything can happen any given week.
Oh, absolutely.
In the National Football League. You're talking about Green Bay. Josh Jacobs is out. That's their identity of their offense. Jordan Love still hasn't played phenomenally. He still hasn't lived up to his lofty contract that he signed. Then you're talking about you're going to Seattle, to take on Sam Darnold, who just threw 4 interceptions today versus the Rams. So he still struggles against good defenses and good defensive lines, and that's something that the Vikings have. Jaden Daniels may not be available, when they go take on the Commanders back here at US Bank Stadium. And then you're talking about Dallas Cowboys that can't stop a nosebleed. So, yes, it's there's still a lot of winnable games here on that schedule. They just have to go figure it out. I mean, but we could say this about maybe 4 out of 6 of their losses. They had a chance to win all of these games. So, no, I don't think you can write them off just yet. Like Josh Metellus told me, it's not over till we're officially eliminated.
Can I just say one thing for the record?
Ooh.
Personally, if you're asking me personally, my perspective, I do think it's over. I do think it's over for this team. I think they have no shot at the postseason whatsoever after today's loss. From a bird's eye view, yes, a lot of things can happen. And that's why I say there's a difference between if I'm objectively looking at this postseason possibility or looking at it from what I have garnered through 10 games and where they are now. No, I don't think they have a chance. I don't think there is a chance for them to make the postseason.
Yeah, they're sitting 10th right now, and they got to get past Carolina. Is now ahead of them. So they've got to get by Carolina, San Francisco. Green Bay is the 7th seed.
And they still have 2 games versus Green Bay, so they could very well climb
That's big.
up right there.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's
starting next week.
I think next week maybe when you can call Dandy Don and start singing The Party's Over, Pierre.
Fair. Well, I mean, listen, at week 11, I'll stand right here right now and admit, I'll go on the record. I don't have a problem. And what happens if they make the playoffs? People are going to be in the comments, oh, you were wrong. Put me on Old Takes Exposed. Okay, I guess I'll just continue my career on as normal then, whatever.
No different than all the network.
Yeah, I think it is going to be a very, very tough uphill climb for this team.
For sure.
No doubt. All right, that'll do it for us. Where can... If somebody wants to talk to you more about the playoffs, where could they find you on X?
They can find me at the Nouj, Fox9, Nouj.
And if they want to chat with Ahmad?
Ahmad Hicks TV.
All right. And you stumbled across this podcast. Ahmad, where else could you possibly
Fox9.com, Fox Local, YouTube, Spotify, Apple. Did I hit everything?
I think that sounds about right to me.
I think I hit everything.
All right, we'll see you after the Packers game, which will be a win for the Purple, correct?
Hopefully.
Sure.
All right, we'll see you.